Uh, Greetings, everyone. Uh, to continue our discussion from yesterday. Uh, First of all, I opened up the Chamra V'Chaye. Chamra V'Chaye is a classic book on Sanhedrin by the Knesset Hagdolah, Chaim Ben Avisti. The one who wrote the Knesset Hagdolah, he has a book on which is like a Shita Mekubetzes on Sanhedrin. And he indeed brings that a Meiri that indeed says what we speculated Rashi the Yarama would hold, right? That if a person punctured someone with a thorn, in the heart or in the jugular vein, it would still require, according to Rashi Yarama, evaluation on its thickness. It's only on a metal pin iron punctures, but a puncture wound that killed a person by any other substance other than iron would require evaluation whether it was really thick enough to do that. This Meiri spells out what we speculate Rashi and the Ad Ramah would hold. And Tosfos, as we said, disagrees that a puncture wound makes it self-evident that that whatever puncture could do the job. Yeah, okay, and that's one we point out a few different machloks in that there are between Rashi and the Yad Ramah on the one hand and Tosfos on the other. Listen to the previous session where we discussed that at greater length. But another thing that I saw in the Chamra V'Chaye that I want to bring up right now is that he actually, from a different angle, ventured into a question that we raised yesterday. We raised the following question. You throw someone into the water, but that person ought to be able to swim. Right? But he didn't, right? The height was as such that a guy with his health and his swimming abilities would have not drowned. So we say it's a freak accident, and we were medayek from Rashi that it's not shiur misa, right? Yes, it's direct causation. You pushed him into the water and he drowned, right? But it's not. You didn't deal him a death blow. It wasn't lethal force because he ought to have been able to survive it, right? So it's just the bad luck that killed him. It wasn't that the direct blow, but it wasn't with requisite lethal force. So why is he dead? None of our business. And it could be that if you wouldn't have pushed him in the water, he'd still be alive today, right? But you cannot say that he was dealt a death blow. So he wanted to know what would be the halacha monetarily. You throw a dog, your neighbor's dog is just ticking you off, always pishing on your bushes. You can't take it anymore. You take the dog, you throw him into the pool out of anger, right? Because, now dogs are naturally swimmers, right? So you just throw them, not from a great altitude, from the pool side into the pool. Dog doesn't swim, drowns. Right? Are you obligated to pay for the dog or not? So interestingly enough, he takes it, as a simple fact that you have to have lethal force in order to pay for compensation for having killed something. His proof is from boar, right? A boar, a pit that you dug in the public domain. If it's going to to obligate you to pay for having killed something, like the whole value of a shore that fell into the boar, right, and died. So that's why it needs to be 10 tvachim, kedei lahamis. That's shiur misa. So he says, we know that it's davar pashut, right? Davar pashut, right? That to him, right? As per that din of eser tvachim lemisa, right? Now that you need a boar of 10 tvachim. Otherwise, if it was less 10 tvachim, the animal died, then we say it was a freak accident that killed the animal. By the way, it's only by death, right? The boar test is chayv and nezikin, right? A boar that's not 10 tvachim deep, but a person breaks his leg there, gets hurt, or something breaks, that's fine. You're obligated to pay. Fine. I mean, so you're going to be It's not a freak accident if something gets damaged in less than 10 tvachim, but it's a freak accident if something dies in less than 10 tvachim. Right? So, he comes from the opposite end. Why do we even need the pasuk of Even Yad? Why do we even need that pasuk? Why didn't we learn out of a kal v'chomer from bor? Because by Nezikin, we know there's no difference between shogeg and mezid. You broke it, you pay for it. You killed it, you pay for it. Mezid, so you intended it, intend. And so over there, you need shir misa, right? So when we say kal v'chomer by murder, which is only more lenient, because by murder, unintentional murder does not get the death penalty, right? So there's a leniency, which is a kal v'chomer that's actually coming up soon. Coming up soon, we're going to right. This kal v'chomer is going to be used in reverse, and by Ravina. So he said, what do we even need Even Yad for? If you have the din of bor yud tvachim, so what do I even need the pasuk of Even Yad? Right. So now I don't even recall the answer that he says to that, and I really should look it up. But it's really germane to the next sugya we're going to do. Right, this kal v'chomer from the Zikin to Misa. Right. But here's the point. Seemingly the point I want to raise for today's discussion. Right, we'll get back to this chamra v'chaye. Right, but we seemingly he brought a concrete proof that even by monetary law, if you killed something with non-lethal force, you don't pay. I humbly suggest there's still a distinction in area of doubt. Right? Yes, a boar that's tes tvachim cannot kill a living creature, such as an ox or a donkey, right? Which is what the case that the Torah is discussing. It does not shir misa for a shor or a chamor. It is in essence not shir misa, right? Yes, so I get it. That would be a good proof that if I give a full-grown ox a little flick, between the eyes, and I'm not any type of sensei that with a little touch, he creates vibes that smash the brain. We're not talking about one of these senseis or ninjas. Please. Regular people that exist in the real world, not in the stuff of fantasy, right? So you give a little flick to a shore and it dies. Of course, it's a freak accident. There's no way I killed that shore. No way, right? It just it is ridiculous, right? It's just freak accident, right? There is no lethal force applied, right? So you need lethal force, but here's the thing, right? Water drowns. Water is, in essence, if it's, a tall pool, right? It is lethal force. You could drown in water, right? It's just that it's called that it wasn't lethal force because the person could have escaped, right? And he could have escaped. That's what makes it, non-lethal. So it's not because that there wasn't enough water to drown the guy. There was enough water to drown the guy. He needs water over the head, right? So I'm wondering, I'm just thinking out loud, and maybe I'm totally off, right? Right, that maybe there's still a distinction to be made, which might also answer the Chamar V'chaya's question. You need a special limud, right, by Ritzicha, and you don't want to get from the Kal V'chomer from Bor Yud, maybe we have an additional leniency by murder that we don't have by monetary damage. So let's say if in essence the force was lethal, just the victim could have escaped or counteracted it, right? All right, so maybe it's Dafka special Evan Yad, special leniency. Yes, we could have got but it's the adipose special leniency. In essence, the force is innately lethal. Right, just the person could escape. Right, he just didn't. Right, that's still called that it wasn't sure misa. That might be a chiddush. Right, yeah, I don't see that automatically derivable from the din of bor yud. Right, bor yud, yeah, it has to be that the lethal force has to be there. But what if the lethal force is there? Just it's the only reason why we call it non-lethal is because the victim could escape, right? Could do something about it, right? He just didn't. Right? I don't know. I could be totally open to that. It's a special chiddush by Ritzicha, right? Especially in Brazil, which we need Evan Yad for. And and I'm just thinking out loud, hey, we are all on equal footing in this forum, right? I am not looking things up ahead of you guys. We are learning together to have the learning together experience. Chavrusah, which, by the way, it just occurred to me that some person might be frustrated because we advertise we're going to do this from learning something from scratch, getting to the level of putting together a shir klali. So it's like taking weeks already. Well, yeah, but we're only learning, at half an hour at a time max. So with today's session, it's not even a whole morning seder yet, right? So we are doing this really in slow motion. But if everything we've done so far together is not even one whole morning seder together. So yeah, just being broken up in very small installments. Yeah, but you'll understand yourself that we could go through this process and arrive at a finished product within a week. We'll every day we learn the the equivalent of 1/6 of a morning seder. Okay, just wanted to point that out. Just saying, as they say. All right, so this is a question that I think our doubt still stands. We do not have a conclusive proof from din of bor yud for our case of throwing a dog into the water and the dog drowns, and the dog is we're supposed to be a good swimmer. Maybe that is different. Maybe that's only a p'tur and ritzicha because there was enough water to drown the dog. The dog chose not to escape. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm totally wrong on this. Everyone goes through steps. Of trial and error, raising ideas, then rejecting them, and even the ones that make pass the grade and are not rejected out of hand still need sharpening and refining, as I'm just demonstrating to you in a step-by-step process, which is a purposeful reason why we don't have like a 3-hour long Chavrusah, right? I want to give it to you really step by step. Okay, all I want to do for today's is learn the Yad Ramah on the Gemara we did yesterday. We did Gemara Rosh yesterday. I'll learn with you the Yad Ramah on it, and we'll call it a day. Okay, here we go. Just get there. High Vav base. Let's get to the shtickle on the Gemara that we did yesterday. Here we are. Piska. This is the line from the Gemara. He's first going to quote the Gemara. It comes up right. So if the guy was already in the water and you just prevent him from lifting his head up, that teaches a chiddush. Even though you're not the one who pushed him in, since you're the one who's barring his escape, that's called first degree murder. Meaning, the diak is like this, that the Resha, which says you're chayev, is, and so Dafka, in the case of chayev, it talked about the guy's in the water already, and you're not letting him lift up his head. And the Seifa, which says you're potter because the guy should have been able to escape, we set up the case of p'tur, where you will, escape being killed by the earthly court. Like we constantly explained, all these cases are chayav misa b'nei shamayim, as far as I know. We'll double check when we get to the Rambam. All right, so so your part of the case where your pushed him into water, but of course, he's saying almost the obvious. Don't make a mistake to say that dafka kavash is chayiv and dafka pushing is potter. That's not the main point. In the ratio also, if you have pushed the guy and he can't get out of the water, you push it, of course you're chayiv. The guy we said, and also regarding the sefer, it's not dafka when you push the guy into the water, but he could get out there, you're potter, if you have him in a headlock on the water, but you are weak. He is strong, and if he really wanted to, he ought to be able to, right? Given his strength, right? And his ability to hold his breath and his strength, he should be able to break out of your headlock and gotten out. He just didn't. You'd also be potter. Right. So why in the case of Chayv do we dafka say that you're restraining his head on the water, but you're not the one who pushed him? And the Seifa, where you're potter because he could get out, dafka because you pushed him. Right? Right. All right, so now this is simple, and we already explained it, the chiddush of the rashas, even though you didn't push him, he was in the water already. You can't say, well, he was in the water already, I just prevented leaving. No, you're preventing from leaving is murder one, and the sefer, the chiddush is that even though he wasn't in the water at all, right, and you pushed him in, since he could get out of there, you're potter, right? Now, that's what he says. Now, then he goes into the next Gemara, but he references that he had discussed this already earlier in the Mishnah, and that's what I want to go back to. Yeah, because in the Mishnah he actually did explain this Gemara. He jumped ahead and already explained what Rashi in the Gemara explained. He explained already when he referenced the Mishnah, and I will quote, because that's something which I want to dwell on a little bit. And he says like this. Dochfo, right? So he pushed in the water, but he's able to get out. So he actually in the Mishnah already jumped ahead and referenced the Gemara. Sefer Naya Vuzka Mashvalan. This end part of the Mishnah is also teaching us a chiddush. So even though you're standing outside of the water or the fire. This guy comes and pushes him into the water, into the fire. Since he could have gotten out of, right, raised himself out of the water, out of fire, and he didn't, he is potter. The pusher is potter. The lav gire dide ahanu bay. Listen to how he sums it up. It is not his arrow that had an effect on him. Lav gire dide ahanu bay. It's not his arrow that had an effect on him. Right? It is not his arrow that had an effect on him. Right? How did Rashi say it? Right? Rashi said it. The guy had bad luck. The guy had bad luck. Right? The guy had bad luck. Right? And so I did. And that's why he's dead. Right? You know what? Let's pull up Rashi. As I'm drawing a little bit of a blank, I'm just going to pull up Rashi on the screen. Give me a second. This is how it goes. When learning from scratch, this is how it goes. One of the double check, now it could be just because the Yad Ramah is using totally different words than Rashi doesn't necessarily mean that they're having a disagreement, because you have to think the meaning of the words, not the words, the meaning of the words. So if people use different words, but when you penetrate the meaning, it comes up the same. So they're not having machlokas, even though they said it very differently from each other. Machlokas is in content, not in form. Okay, so I am looking at Rashi. We're going to contrast the words of Rashi with the words of Yad Ramah. They're using totally different words, but it could be that, right? But it could be that even though they're using different words, they are in effect saying the same thing. Let's look into it. That's the focus of today's session. Rashi and Yad Ramah use totally different words to explain the same line of Gemara. Is there a machlokas, or are they in essence saying the same thing despite the very difference, great difference in words chosen? So Rashi says, Shiachol al Risham, he's able to rise up, someone other, another guy that would be, any other guy who has the same health and the same agility, any other guy who has the same qualifications, guy should be able to ascend. Vishar Gormalo, and it is the moment that caused him to die. I mean, it just wasn't his day. He had bad luck to say bad luck. I mean, we explained yesterday, it's not to say that this day God decreed, necessarily that his life would have ended. If I would have not pushed him in, then he would have been dead anyway. So a car would have hit him. If not, a car would have hit him, then he would have had a stroke later, a few minutes later. No, it could be if I wouldn't have pushed him in, he would still be alive today, right? But he was vulnerable to, he was vulnerable to attack for whatever reason, right? But it doesn't change the fact that I didn't deal him a death blow, because it's not, his being vulnerable for whatever reason does not make it that I dealt him a death blow, right? So, Shah Gormalo is just to explain, so why is he dead if I didn't kill him, right? Wasn't his day. You caught him off guard, he blanked out for a freak reason. Now, we're not going to get philosophical. Was his time up on earth? Was his time not up earth? I have another discussion that I heard from Yaakov Weinberg on that issue, which has to be a special session onto its own. It's a deep hashkafic discussion. Well, they say, listen, that's just a summary. Even by first-degree murder, listen, was the guy's number up or not? If God wanted him alive, so he would have shot and missed, right? So why am I guilty for his murder? His number was up. So he would have been dead anyway. Is that a legitimate argument? Answer is no. Why not? Okay, it's a long discussion, right? So, but over here, we want to explain if there was not lethal force used, why is he dead? Sure, Garmelo, right? Special circumstances of the moment, right? So, Potter, right? So the guy who pushed him is Potter. Hadochef, the pusher is Potter. The low of it, Shiur Misa. He did not do Shiur Misa. Right? So there's not a single word here that's the same as the Yad Ramah. So Raj says, since he could ascend, meaning any other guy, like this guy, ought to have been able to ascend, and this guy just wasn't his day. Yeah, that's why he didn't ascend. Right? Just wasn't his day, could be for infinite different reasons, right? But on Potter, the law of it, Shiur Misa, I did not do a requisite amount and requisite force that could cause death. Those are the words of Rashi. Let's go back to Yad Ramah. This Yad, again, like I said, it's Yad Ramah on the Mishnah. Now let's see, kind of jumped ahead and superimposed the Gemara on the Mishnah in this instance. Sorry, every time I move my screen, I lose my Otzar Chachma text. I'll get there very soon. Here we go. Oh, here we are. Almost there. Okay, here we are. Kevan Shayachol As Risham Lola Potter. He just quotes the Mishnah. And he doesn't say anything about Shah Garmalo, right? He could have gone in. He's Potter the Lav Gira Didei Hanube. It is not his arrow that had any effect on him. Lav gire di day ahanu bay. It is not his arrow, meaning my arrow, referring to his force, that had any effect on him. I would venture to say, now I leave it up to you. You know, you could easily just rewind this recording if you're listening to be recorded now. Hear Rosh again, hear the Yad Ramah again. I am venturing to say that there is no machlokas here whatsoever. The Yad Ramah did not bother adding what Rashi added, Shah Garmalo, which I don't think, even though, Rashi went out of his way to explain, well, so why is he dead? All right, and I don't think, okay, but Rashi said, listen, bad luck, but under normal circumstances, this guy would still be alive, right? And I don't think that it was necessary for Rashi to say that to explain anything in the Gemara. That Rashi is addressing a philosophical question a guy has, but if I didn't kill him, so why is he dead? All right, sure, Gomerlo. Right? If it's not lethal, actually, let me tighten it. If it's not lethal, so Rashi felt to address a question a person has in mind. But what Rashi added, Shah Garmalo, was not necessary to explain anything in the Gemara, any words in the Gemara. So Rashi just answered a question that the reader may have. If it's not lethal force, so why is he dead? No, Shah Garmalo. But that's a philosophical question Rashi is addressing. Right? It's not parshanut. It's not necessary to explain any word of the Gemara per se. Right? And so, and the fact that the Yad Ramah doesn't bother to say that doesn't mean there's a machlokas here. The Yad Ramah just wants to explain the Mishnah. Right? Just wants to explain the words of the Mishnah. What Rashi had, Shah Garmalo, is Rashi felt the need to address a question that people may have in their heads, but those extra words were not going to explain any words in the Mishnah or Gemara that need explaining. Right? And I think this is legit, right? And now that which he says, the Lav Gira Dila Be, is just saying the exact same words as Rashi, in exact same thing as Rashi in different words. Think about it. It is not his arrow that had any effect on him. So it's an arrow. It's direct. It just didn't have an effect on him, right? That's really what Rashi says. Law of Shir Misa, right? It is called his arrow. It is called his arrow, right? It's not called what killed him. Why? Well, it was direct, right? Yeah, it was direct. There's no intermediary, right? I pushed him into the water and he drowned there. But it's not called that my pushing is what killed him because he was able to leave the water, right? So I think Rashi and the Yad Ramah are saying the same thing. It's amazing how they're saying the exact same thing with totally different words. Rashi saying, there wasn't requisite, lethal force. The Yad Ramah said it just the exact same idea, just in different words. The arrow had no effect on him, but it's an arrow. It's direct. Gira, literally means his arrow. It means his force. Right? His force did not have an effect on him. It didn't work to kill him. It was direct, and now he's dead. Right? Well, it's not what killed him because it didn't have requisite lethal force. I think there's a wonderful case of how sometimes Rishonim use totally different words, but in essence saying the exact same thing. Whereas sometimes we'll see ourselves, sometimes they could be using almost the same words, and they're saying totally different things. All right, but that will do it for today's session. Why? I feel like going. Okay, we'll see you all next time. Kol Tuv. Just in time, as a matter of fact. Got a call coming in. Hello?